Hey guys, welcome back to Aimstone channel. I am with the one and only Peter Schiff. He needs no introduction. He is a big believer in gold. He's an American investor, and as well, he's a big critic of Bitcoin. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing okay. How are you this morning?
Awesome. I'm doing great as well. Thank you. Okay, Peter. So let's start with the first question. What do you think is going on with current economy?
Well, I think we're, experiencing the collapse of the credit bubble. The world has been gorging, particularly the United States, but not just the United States, on cheap money for a long time. And so while money was cheap, a lot of people borrowed, and they borrowed a lot more than they could repay. But people were not looking at the principal, they were looking at the debt service. And as long as the debt service costs were low, nobody was worried. Well, the debt service costs aren't low anymore, and they're rising, and they can rise considerably from here. And so I think we're seeing this entire phony economy that was built on a foundation of cheap money. It's about to collapse because the foundation is gone.
Got it. And as we know, inflation is basically reaccelerates higher. In June, we had like CPI print 3%, and August, I believe it was like 3.7%. What do you think is going to happen next for inflation?
I think this year was the trough of inflation, 2023. We had a breakout in 2021. We had a bit of a pullback in 2023, not back down to 2%, but closer to 2 than 9. But this is kind of the trough. I think next year, 2024, you're going to see higher rates, than we had this year, and we're headed back up. And the Fed is already up at 5.5%. There's really not much more they're going to do unless they raise rates substantially. But I don't even think that's going to solve the problem, because you're going to see a huge recession, financial crisis. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the Fed to print even more money and throw gasoline on the inflation fire.
Yep, totally agree. And as we know that like national debt increases, I believe a few days ago they printed over they added $275 billion to national debt in like 2 weeks. And as we know that to service the debt for government increases as well. So I think next year, government will soon have to pay like close to like $1 trillion to service the debt. We're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the national debt just hit 33 trillion just over 2 weeks ago, and it's already almost 33.5 trillion. We're halfway to 34 trillion. We may do $1 trillion in a month. It took us three months to add the last trillion, but it took the first 40 presidents, 150 years to get to 1 trillion in debt, right? And we may do it in a month now.
It goes exponential.
Interest on the national debt, when the year began, it was about 300 billion a year. Now it's over 700 billion. By the end of the year, it'll be about $1 trillion a year. But by the end of next year, it'll be about 2 trillion a year. At $1 trillion a year, it's already a bigger expense than national defense. But at 2 trillion a year, it'll be bigger than Medicare or Social Security. It'll be the single biggest line item in the budget. And a few more years, maybe 4 years from now, 5 years, interest expenses will exceed 100% of tax revenue. Now, if you imagine that for a moment, all the money the U.S. government collects in taxes, income taxes, payroll taxes, sales taxes, whatever, duties, all that money, 100% of it will go to interest on the debt. So there's nothing left for defense, nothing left for Social Security or Medicare or all these programs, unless the government borrows that money. The government would have to borrow 100% of its expenditures, because 100% of its tax revenues would be going to interest on the money it borrowed in the past. Now, there is no way that a country can survive that. I mean, I don't even think we can get to that point. So somewhere between now and then is a complete implosion of the system.
Yeah, I agree. Right now, like $1 trillion will be like 20% of total tax revenue, which is insane. And so to follow up, Peter, where do you think people should save? Where should people go to as a safe haven asset to to um to survive this uh like collapse, whatever is coming?
Well, it's a monetary collapse. It's a debt to collapse. So the safe haven would be gold. I mean, obviously, gold is going to retain its value. Gold has come under some pressure recently because a lot of traders don't understand. They're just reacting to the dollar strength, which is a function of rising bond yields. But traders just don't get that these rising bond yields are not a positive for the dollar. Bond yields are rising because of inflation, because of a lack of confidence among lenders in the ability of the US government to repay its debts. And none of that is bullish for the dollar. So these are just a bunch of trading algorithms that have been programmed to react, but not think. And so they're simply reacting to rates and not thinking out what it really means or why rates are rising. But I think at some point you're going to see a crack in the dollar, and I think gold's going to take off because no matter how this shakes out, gold's going to be the winner because either there's going to be a default on all the debt, which is going to be a huge economic financial crisis, and I think gold will be a safe haven. Alternatively, if we just have massive inflation because the Federal Reserve doesn't want to allow a complete credit contraction and financial crisis, then we have runaway inflation, and again, you would turn to gold. Because either way, if you're in dollars, you're going to lose. If you're in you have money in a bank or money in a bond, either you're going to lose your money because you don't get paid, or you're going to lose your purchasing power because you get paid in money that doesn't buy very much.
Agreed. And where do you think like intrinsic value for gold comes from, and what is it?
Well, it's a commodity. It's a precious metal. It has all sorts of properties that for thousands of years have been highly desirable for many uses. I mean, the biggest one being jewelry. That's about half the demand. People have been making jewelry out of gold for thousands of years. But it has a lot of applications in industry, in computers, in aviation, aerospace, medicine, dentistry. There are a lot of things that gold can do a lot better than other metals. And so, there's always going to be demand for it. But the reason that gold is a great store of value, as opposed to a lot of other commodities that also have loose uses, is that gold doesn't lose its property over time. I mean, it doesn't decay, it doesn't tarnish. So you can store gold for an infinite number of years, and it's going to be just as valuable. It's going to be able to do the exact same thing. In fact, even if you use your gold, right? Let's say I have a gold ring. This ring happens to be made of 24 karat gold. But if I got tired of wearing this ring, or if somebody in my family needed money one day, this could be melted down, and it could be used, to make a different type of jewelry, or it could be used to conduct electricity. It could be put into a semiconductor, or it could be used in medicine, whatever. Because the gold doesn't change just because it's been made into a ring. I mean, you can melt it down and start all over again, and it's exactly the same gold that you have. So you can't really do that with other commodities, and so gold doesn't lose its value. So it's a store of value.
Got it. I think there is no doubt that gold has a value, but I think there is a difference between value and intrinsic value. Like intrinsic value has to be well defined, while value could be like more subjective. What do you think about that?
Well, look, there's always a subjectivity to anything. I mean, does gold have any value if you're on an island dying of thirst? No. I mean, I guess there you need water. You can't drink your gold. So if you're going to die of thirst, you don't care about anything but the water. But to say that all value is subjective, meaning that you can't look at something and say, no, this has value, whether it has value to a particular person in a particular situation is irrelevant to an objective fact that here is a element, a commodity, a good that has certain qualities and properties that can do certain things there is a value to that. Maybe two people might assign a different price to that value, but you can't really deny the fact that there's value there. But then when you get to something like Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is all about price, and it's not about value at all. I mean, people can want Bitcoin and they could be willing to buy it. But I don't think that there's any real value there, even just, other than the fact that there's a market price, which is fine. But, price is what you pay. The value is what you get. And, you could buy Bitcoin today and pay, what is it? $27,000 for a Bitcoin, but you're not going to get $27,000 of value. You're just going to get a Bitcoin. Now, will you be able to sell that Bitcoin in the future for more than you paid? Maybe, maybe not. It just depends on if there are people willing to buy it. But they have to be willing to buy it despite the fact that it has no value, because it's never had any real value. I mean, to the extent that maybe it has some value, I would say it's minimal, because I stopped keeping track of how many altcoins there are now. I mean, I stopped looking at them when it was above 20,000. Maybe it's 30,000 by now. Who the hell knows? But there's so many out there. And there's so much Bitcoin out there, because again, you don't need a whole Bitcoin. One Satoshi will do. There's trillions of those. So it's not like there's a shortage of Satoshis.
But Peter, value and price, they have to meet like at one point of another. Usually, I believe Joe Greenblatt, one of the hedge fund managers, he said it's within like 3 to 5 years. If your thesis did not play out how you think, there is a decent chance that you're wrong. What do you think about that?
Well, I suppose, maybe the longer it takes for your thesis to play out, maybe that raises the probability that you're wrong. I mean, it took a long time for my housing bubble thesis to play out, and I was right. It took a long time for my .com bubble thesis to play out, and I was right. Now, I'll admit that it's taking even longer for the Bitcoin thesis to pan out. But look, nobody who bought Bitcoin in 2020, 21, 22 are making money, because people paid $50,000, $60,000 for Bitcoin. And if you go back and look at the peak in 2017, which is 6-7 years ago, Bitcoin got as high as 20,000 back then, and it's not that much higher than that right now. So it's not like, if you bought that rally, you haven't made a lot of money. A lot of people had expected by now, if you go back to all the Bitcoin hypers, people were expecting, 100,000 by now, or even more. I mean, remember all the laser beams that people put on their eyes back in 2021? The laser beams were about Bitcoin going to 100,000, right? We're not even close to 100,000. So, I mean, the laser beams didn't work, right? So Bitcoin hasn't delivered on all the hype. So maybe it's all the pumpers and hodlers that have to start questioning what they were saying, because they haven't made any money. The big money was made in Bitcoin early on. Sure, I had an opportunity when I first heard about it to buy Bitcoin below 10 bucks. I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was pretty low compared to where it is now. And yeah, anybody who bought Bitcoin back then and who has sold has made a tremendous amount of money. But Bitcoin didn't really become popular until 2017, when it spiked up to 20,000. And that's when all of a sudden you got all this stuff going on. And the institutional money, or the hedge funds, they didn't even come in until Bitcoin was, 40,000, 50,000. So they're down. I mean, look at all the hype from Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's average price for his Bitcoin is just over 30,000. So he's down. MicroStrategies, the poster boy for crypto, they're down. Look at what's it called? What's the country?
El Salvador?
El Salvador. Yeah, El Salvador. El Salvador's average price is even higher than MicroStrategy. He's up in the 40,000s.
Yeah, but Peter, you're cherry picking certain time frame. What if you look at it, for example, like 10, 15 years time frame? Yeah, I know Bitcoin hasn't.
Yeah, but he didn't buy it. But El Salvador didn't buy any Bitcoin back then.
Yeah, but what do you think he's going to be in 10 years from today? Do you think he's going to be profitable or?
No, I think it's going to be lower. I think in 10 years it'll be lower than it is now. Now, it may not be lower than it was at the beginning. Bitcoin still may be worth more than $1 in 10 years, but it may be worth a lot less than 10,000. It may be worth less than 5,000 or less than 1,000. I don't know, but I think that we've probably peaked. Now, if we do make a new high and Bitcoin goes above 100,000, then obviously I was wrong about that. We didn't peak. But you know, I still don't think that even if that does happen, that I'm wrong. I just think that, you know, I'm wrong about it peaking, but I'm not wrong about it ultimately collapsing. But I don't even think at this point, if you think about where Bitcoin could go, let's say it could go to 100,000. You know, what is that from here? Triple your money, right? A little bit more.
Yep.
To me, there are other investments that I think could be triples. I mean, I think a lot of the gold stocks that I own, I think not only could they go up 10x, but 20x, 50x. So I think that's a better bet as far as the upside. And the downside is, I think, you know, yes, there's downside in these stocks, but they're not going to zero like Bitcoin could. I think there's a lot less downside risk, especially buying the gold stocks where they are now. So it's like, do I want to sell my gold stocks to buy Bitcoin? No, right? I don't. Do I want to take cash and buy Bitcoin? Well, no, I'd rather just buy more of those stocks. I just think it's a better risk reward. You know.
But Peter, Bitcoin is very useful, maybe not so much in the United States, but if you look at countries like Argentina or Turkey, Bitcoin literally made like new all-time high in those currencies. So Bitcoin was
right. Well, so did gold. So did a lot of things. But yeah, look, Bitcoin is not the only cryptocurrency they can use in these other countries. And ultimately, I think when we start getting cryptos backed by gold and they start to proliferate, especially if they're put out by reliable, credible parties, that's what people are going to choose, because it's a much better store of value and it's going to be much more efficient to utilize. So if let's say you're in one of those countries and you could buy a digital currency that represents ownership of actual gold, and that cryptocurrency, its value is pegged to gold. Now you have a reliable store of value that's actually a much better medium of exchange and unit of account than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin won't be able to survive competition from a gold-backed crypto. Just won't.
Peter, we already had
or
that.
Multiple.
We already had exact the same thing prior to 1971, where gold was backed by US dollars. So what's the difference going to make when gold's going to be backed by some currency that will be like centralized and can be easily manipulated?
No, it's not the gold isn't backed by currency. The currency is backed by gold. But yes,
Right.
The U.S. government defaulted on its commitment. So maybe people won't trust the U.S. government. Maybe they'll trust a different government, or maybe they'll trust the private sector. You'll have a private contract where a private company will back a crypto by gold. Look, people trust private companies all the time. Everybody who has insurance, you buy auto insurance, you buy life insurance, you buy fire insurance. They're only as good as the corporation who has promised to make good on that policy. And so the same thing could happen with a gold-backed token. I could buy a token backed by gold because I trust the counterparty. I trust the company is going to keep its legal commitment that it's made to me. Just like I trust the insurance company that if I get into an auto accident, they're going to pay. They're going to pay the claim, right? So it's this, and you know, and companies compete with one another for their reputation so that they can, you know, sell insurance. So companies will compete with their reputation so that they can mint a gold-backed crypto, because there will be profit in tokenizing gold. When you do that, you will make money, just like any mint makes money. When they take gold bullion and make it into a recognizable coin, there is a profit there. And so there will be profits for companies who do this, but only to the extent that people trust them, that people trust that the gold is there and they're not going to default on their obligations.
Yeah, that is true. But if there is a central entity backs a currency by gold, maybe it will work for maybe 30 years, 50 years, for a number of decades, but there will be a point of time where like every centralized entity like goes down. Don't you think
Yeah,
so?
well, but I still think it's better odds than Bitcoin, because when you have Bitcoin, you're just owning hope and hype. I mean, people could give up on Bitcoin. It's like a fad. I mean, it's popular, but it could lose its popularity. I think it's already lost. Look what happened with my son. He used to be totally into Bitcoin, and now he doesn't even care about it anymore. He's off into something else. So
Probably
people
will change
lose
his
interest.
mind. He'll change his mind in the next cycle.
Well, he just got taken in with AI, and all of a sudden it was just all he thought about was AI, and Bitcoin,
Got it.
was just like kind of went off his radar.
But don't you think it's useful and valuable, for example, like storing $1 million in your head and traveling around the world? You cannot do that with gold. You cannot do that certainly with fiat.
Well, you can have, again, you can have a cryptocurrency that you own title to. It can be sitting in a vault in Switzerland, but you own the tokens that entitle you to that gold. So it's the same principle, but at least you own something real. When you own Bitcoin, again, you don't have money. You have the ability to turn your Bitcoin into money, so long as somebody with money wants your Bitcoin. So as long as there's a buyer for your Bitcoin, yeah, you've got something valuable. But if there are no buyers, then you're stuck with nothing in your head, just a string of numbers.
Okay, Peter, do you have a Bitcoin wallet?
Well, I had one, but I
I
didn't
heard the
remember
story
the
though.
seed phrase, so it's I have no way of accessing it. So my Bitcoin are lost forever.
Why did you open like
Not
a
that I had
community
that
account
many.
for?
I had a third. I had like a third of a Bitcoin.
Oh wow, that's not bad. Almost 10K. It's like last.
Yeah,
Peter,
it's gone. I have no. So, but people tell me that I helped out everybody else, because I took the 21 million supply down slightly, because my Bitcoin are gone forever. It's like they're gold coins that are at the bottom of the ocean, but they're so deep no one's going to find them. I mean, they're still there, right? The gold doesn't go anywhere, so my Bitcoin, I guess, doesn't go anywhere, as long as the network. Of course, if all the miners go away and there's nobody, operating all those nodes anymore, then maybe they do go away, right? Because you have to have the computing power out there validating the transactions. The miners have to be able to get paid in order to keep everything going.
well, the hash rate power makes like new all-time high like every day. Anyway, Peter, why did you open like a Coinbase account, and whatever this video generates, I will send you those money in Bitcoin. What do you think?
I
Huh?
know. How much is that going to be?
Maybe a few $100, I don't know. And I will give you another option. If you're willing to hold that Bitcoin for at least 1 year, I will double your money. Like after this video, maybe it goes live today, maybe after 1 week. If you will hold it for one
You mean
year,
you'll double my Bitcoin?
I
So if
will
my
double your.
Bitcoin goes down, you'll just double that lower number, right? So,
No, I will double
but
it from 1 week from today. So I know we have Bitcoin halving next year. Maybe it's going to be 100K. So you'll be very happy. What do you think?
well, I don't know. I don't know that it's not going to be enough to make a difference. I will hardly have any Bitcoin.
I feel like a few $100 that is something.
Yeah. So what? For a few $100, big deal. It's going to be. So I'll have $500, $600.
Okay, so I will double your
But
Bitcoin and you will hold it for 1 year. Yes?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a hassle to go and open up another wallet. I have some wallets from some companies that were tokenizing gold. You might be able to send some Bitcoin to one of those. I got to look.
Sure, whatever wallet you send me, I will send it to you on that wallet. Anyway, Peter,
Yeah.
what would you want Peter, my
And
viewers to
meanwhile, you should call up Schiff Gold and buy yourself some gold.
do?
Get some real money.
I have 1 ounce
Just
of gold. I have 1 ounce of gold and 10 ounces of silver. I bought it like 2016 or something like that. Like it was like $1,500, and I actually thought I wanted to have maybe a third of my portfolio in gold. That was like, I think, early 2020, but then it was actually very difficult to buy gold. So I just decided to buy more Bitcoins, and I did
it's
not.
very easy to buy gold. Just call up Schiff Gold. We'll get it and send it right out to you.
Yeah, but you also have to pay, I think, broker's fees, and you
Very
have,
small. It's not much. 1 or 2%. It's not a lot.
Okay, Peter, it was nice
You
talking
know,
to you.
those miners aren't working for free. All you guys in Bitcoin, I mean, they're taking money out of the network constantly. You know, they're because they have to they create new Bitcoin and put them out there, right? And they sell them into the market. So there's a cost. You know, there's no cost once you own gold and you have it yourself. There's no ongoing cost. I mean, if you store it yourself, there's no, you know, it has value. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. You don't need anybody to
Because
have it retain its
gold is
value.
physical and Bitcoin is digital.
Yeah, that's true. But so what? You still need the miners. You still need
But Peter,
all that
we're
energy
going into
to
this
maintain the network.
we're going to this digital age where technology goes exponential, and you do not think that this is going to be actually beneficial for Bitcoin?
No, no.
No. Okay,
I
okay.
don't.
It was
All
nice.
right.
Where would you like?
Well, they should listen to my podcast to get the other side of the Bitcoin story at schiffradio.com, or sign up, you know, to follow on my YouTube channel, the Schiff Report. Listen to my podcast. I do a couple a week. I'm doing one, I think, tomorrow. We get the jobs data coming out, so I'll be talking about that and what's been going on all week in the market. People who are interested in buying gold, as I said, they should, you know, go to Schiff Gold. If they have larger portfolios that they like me to manage, my main business is Euro Pacific Asset Management. Europac.com is the website. And if you want to speculate, as I said, what I'm doing with my own money, I have a lot of money in gold mining stocks. I think if that's where you're going to strike it rich, right? So if you own Bitcoin because you think it's going to the moon, you know, you're going to get stuck on the launch pad. But I think some of these mining stocks could actually, you know, pass the moon and maybe, you know, go to one of the outer planets. So that's where you want to put your speculative money. So, you know, read the prospectus, contact, you know, my advisors at Euro Pacific Asset Management. You can buy my mutual funds if you have a discount brokerage account, Schwab, Fidelity, E-Trade, Interactive Brokers. They're on all the platforms. You can buy them no load. Just make sure to buy the right fund class, but the Euro Pacific Gold Fund.
Got it, Peter. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. Actually, I'm a big fan of yours. I listen to every single your podcast.
Great. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Peter. Take care.
You too.